But Chase is in the house, and the Niners are in Buffalo, and things are looking bleak. Let's just get that out of the way right now. Let's get right into first topic on this thing. Let's get to the health of the 49ers. RSF 49ers, the great Raj put it on his Twitter. Eric Branch put it in the Chronicle. The Niners in this game, Nick Bosa's got the oblique. Trent Williams has got the ankle. Dima Lenore has got a knee issue. Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles with a knee issue. Aaron Banks with a concussion. And Jordan Elliott with a concussion. None of those guys practiced. This was, I guess, what, yesterday? Maybe none of those guys practiced. Let me see when this was put out there. Yeah, this was yesterday. So none of those guys practiced. The Niners held a practice on Thanksgiving, and none of those guys practiced. So without Bosa, without Trent, without Demo, which is the big one there, Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles, who's a really good special teamer, Aaron Banks, your starting left guard, Jordan Elliott, your starting defensive tackle. Is there any chance that the Niners go into Buffalo and get a win, Chase?
I think the percentage chance that the Niners win in Buffalo is about 5%. Buffalo, I think, is the number 2 team in the AFC behind Kansas City. They beat Kansas City a couple of weeks ago. This is a Bills team that this offseason retooled their roster a little bit. They got rid of a lot of veteran defensive players. They traded away Stephon Diggs. They brought in Curtis Samuel. And you're thinking their offense might take a little bit of a step back. Josh Allen is paid to really maximize and elevate the playmakers around him. He's done just that. He's been an MVP candidate right there with Lamar Jackson and Saquon Barkley. He's been terrific, and he's shown I don't necessarily need that number 1 wide receiver. I'm so good at quarterback running it and throwing it. I'm just such a special player that if you give me a good offensive line, I'm going to be able to make it work with my wide receivers and 2 really good tight ends, one of which will not play in this game, and Dalton Kincaid, who's a really good player. I think one of the things that has changed the look of this Bills offense, they finally have embraced the run. And this is a team that in years past has not been able to run the football when it matters, when they need to either set the tone of a football game in the playoffs or to eat clock late in games. But their really good offensive line, combined with having James Cook, who has developed into a terrific running back, he's the brother of Dalvin Cook, for those not familiar, has changed this Buffalo Bills offense to a certain degree. And Buffalo's really good, 9-2, 5-0 at home. They've won 6 games in a row, and they're pretty healthy, whereas the Niners are really banged up. And there is going to be so much snowfall over the next couple of days in the lead up to this game. So I just don't see how, with these 2 teams heading in opposite trajectories, the Bills are rolling, the 49ers are collapsing, they're having a season from hell, and they're injured, and they're going to be without marquee players, and we don't know the status of quarterback Brock Purdy. If Brandon Allen has to start again, I might put that 5% even lower. I just don't envision a scenario in which the Niners win this game. Now, against Green Bay, they turned it over 3 times. Green Bay capitalized on those giveaways with touchdowns. They were penalized 9 times for 77 yards, and they missed 19 tackles. That is a recipe for disaster against a quality team. If the Niners play like that, you're looking at another 28-point type of loss in a blowout, and you can officially put the nail in the coffin for San Francisco. If you play a clean game and you win the turnover battle, and you capitalize in the red zone, and you're able to clean up on some of those aforementioned mistakes that I just mentioned, you do have a chance. But I've been saying for weeks, really since that Seattle loss, the Niner season is over. It's just not moving in the right direction. This is who they've been all year, up and down, off injured, not converting in the red zone, being very sloppy and an undisciplined football team. And I just don't see how that's going to turn around because this is who the Niners have been all year.
Yeah, no, I watched Buffalo, Kansas City, and I took out the All-22 and watched it a couple nights ago, and man, I mean, Buffalo really is quite a bit different than they were. I love the addition of Ray Davis. I love the addition of James Cook as a runner and a receiver. And they redid their receiving core, and now you got Amari Cooper there. Khalil Shakir is the guy that really is scary. Since week 7, Khalil Shakir ranks 4th among wide receivers in receptions per game. He's had 7.2 receptions per game since week 7. He's had at least 6 catches in every game he's played over that stretch. And now he's going up against a Niner defense that allows the 4th most yards per reception to the slot and couldn't potentially not have Demo Lenore. Kev and I have to huddle on this one, but Khalil Shakir is on the Krugerrands fantasy team. He may have to come off the bench this week and play, because I think unless it's 35-mile-an-hour winds and passing is rendered useless and obsolete, I think Khalil Shakir is going to eat big time on the Niners in this game. I think Josh Allen to Shakir, look for 12 to 13, 14 catches, 115, 120 yards. I think he's going to have a big day.
Yeah, I mean, and I was talking about some of the moves that the Bills had made this offseason, and one of those was bringing in Curtis Samuel, and they were expecting, when they got rid of Stephon Diggs, for a player like Khalil Shakir to step up and start to really develop. I really like that acquisition of bringing in Amari Cooper. Everywhere he's gone, as long as he's had solid quarterback play, he's been able to produce and be a really good player. And then on the Niners front, Renardo Green and Diamador Lenore are the future outside corners for this team. I'm very confident that they can hold it down on the outside and play very, very good football. But what's been the weak link all year for the Niners at that cornerback spot? It's the number 3 guy. Now, when Charvarius Ward was playing, you had Charvarius Ward on the outside. You had Diamador Lenore on the other side. Renardo Green wasn't really playing at that point, so you were seeing a lot of Isaac Yiadom. And then once the Niners started to go with Diamador Lenore and Renardo Green, you saw a little bit less of Isaac Yiadom. Charvarius Ward has remained out, and now teams are starting to spread it out a little bit more because they understand Isaac Yiadom is a weak link, and he's been burnt toast all year. He's been awful, and last year with New Orleans, he was a very highly graded Pro Football Focus player. The Niners brought him in on a 1-year deal, very cheap. I actually liked the move at the time because when he stepped in for Marshawn Lattimore a year ago, he played very well, but he has looked completely lost, getting beat consistently, making bad play after bad play. And he's had some backbreaking plays this year too, where it's really sucked the momentum out of the Niners. The one that really comes to mind from that Seattle game was when Geno Smith on the 3rd and long made an awful throw. Isaac Yiadom misplayed that ball on the far sideline, and Smith was able to fit it over Isaac Yiadom to DK Metcalf. That changed the momentum of the game. If the Niners got off the field there, they could have been able to win that football game, but he's just been bad all year long, and the Niners just don't have enough depth at that secondary. So if you're without Diamador Lenore and you're seeing even more of Isaac Yiadom against an elite quarterback and Josh Allen who can really spin it, make plays in structure, out of structure, could be a really long day, on top of not being able to generate a pass rush on Josh Allen. And if you don't have disciplined pass rush lanes, and it hurts not having Nick Bosa, could be a long and arduous day for this Niners defense, which all year has been a big disappointment.
Is there any path to victory for the 49ers tomorrow against Buffalo?
The path for the Niners to beat the Bills, they will have to play a perfect game. They will have to capitalize in the red zone. They will have to win the turnover battle. They will have to win time of possession. And they will have to win the penalty battle. And you think about, it's not really a battle, but you just can't shoot yourselves in the foot like you did against Green Bay, really like the Niners have done all year. I mean, they've moved the football. They've been in the red zone. They commit penalties. They settle for field goals or shoot. There have been times where they've been in the red zone, and against Seattle, they were in the red zone. They had to punt on a possession because of penalties. So think about what happened against Green Bay. Turn it over 3 times. Green Bay scored, I think, 21 points, at least 14 off those 3 giveaways. All right? Inexcusable. You missed 19 tackles. That kept the Green Bay offense on the field and the Niners defense on the field. And the Niners defense, by the end of the game, was a shot fighter. And so you can't turn it over. You can't miss 19 tackles. You want to keep Buffalo's offense on the sideline as much as possible in winning time of possession, just so that Josh Allen and that offense can't really find a rhythm. One of the odd things about the Niners in that first half, they had as many penalties, 5, as they did first downs in that entire first half. And it's just not a sustainable way to play football. And so the defense has to play its best game of the year. The offense has to play an efficient game. If they don't have Brock Purdy, I just don't see how Brandon Allen is going to play. And this is what really bothers me too. It's potentially going to be snowing in Buffalo. It's going to be very cold. And you're going to go with the less mobile quarterback and Brandon Allen over Joshua Dobbs. And Joshua Dobbs is the better player. Brandon Allen is the lesser player. And Kyle Shanahan's going to continue to not give the ball to Jordan Mason. And so I've defended Kyle Shanahan. I would think it'd be asinine for him to get fired. I think he's a top 5 coach in this league. But this year, he's had the worst year of his coaching career with how disjointed the Niners have been as a team, how undisciplined they've been, his lack of game management, player management, and just the confusing and confounding decisions. I'm just not sure what his thought process is right now. But yeah, that's my formula for how the Niners can beat the Bills. I just don't see how it's going to happen.
I don't think the Niners can win this game, but they have to be +2 in turnovers. That's one. Buffalo's defense has allowed 4.9 rushing yards per attempt, 3rd worst in the league. So you got to run the ball. You have to run the ball. Buffalo gave up 34 runs to Baltimore for 271 yards in that 35-10 loss way back, week 4 or whatever it was, early in the year. They don't give up a lot of rushing yards typically, but they're allowing 119 rushing yards per game, which is middle of the pack, but they haven't faced a lot of rush attempts. Buffalo's defense has faced an average of 24.5 attempts per game, 7th fewest faced by any defense in the league. But they give up 4.9 a carry, 3rd worst in the league. Run the ball, Shanahan. Run the ball. You have a backup quarterback. You have an offensive line that isn't good. You have a receiving core that is beat up and not very good. You have 3 running backs, including the reigning offensive player of the year, J.P. Mason, who's like 3rd in the league in rushing, and you have one of the best game-breaking backs in football right now in 3 steps on that 4.3 speed, Isaac Guerrero. Run the fucking ball and run it like 65 times. Or 65% of the time. You got to pile up runs. You got to run the ball here. You got to commit to the run. You got to walk into that offensive line room before the game and you say, guys, we're running the ball. We're putting this game on you guys. There's 30-mile-an-hour winds. We're not. The one thing about Brandon Allen, he knows where to go, and the ball will come out on time, and he's a smart guy. But other than that, he doesn't have a strong arm, a real strong arm. He's not mobile at all, and he doesn't have stature. So if you notice in the pocket when things start to close down around him, balls are getting batted down. He's fumbling the football, and he's holding it by one hand in a crowd. He's just not physically substantial enough. When you look at Purdy, he's a little smaller, shorter, but he's very substantial. He's 230 pounds. He's kind of yoked up. All those little grabs at the football, the ball doesn't come out as regularly. You gave Allen his shot. They got their doors blown off.
Yep.
Go to one of the other 2 guys. I'd go to Mordecai. Mordecai, the thing about Mordecai might be good. He might be bad. The other guys are proven. Josh Dobbs is 3-11. Brandon Allen's now 2-8 in his career in 10 starts. At least Tanner Mordecai played at Wisconsin and has got 4.46 speed and a better arm than these guys. It's like, put him out there, and he's not mentally broken. And then maybe you'll make Shanahan kind of call the game to protect the quarterback, which is what he needs to do in this weather anyway. I would start Mordecai and run the hell out of it. That's what I would do.
Yeah, at this point, and if the Niners lose one more game and Brock Purdy still isn't ready to go, see what you have with Tanner Mordecai. Start Drake Nugent at center. Yeah. Start playing some of these young players. Let me see more from Ricky Pearsall. If Jacob Cowie can come back off that concussion, I want to see him play. I want to see D Winters at that linebacker spot, because if it gets out of hand to the point where you're not going to make the playoffs, and I just don't think the Niners are playing at a level all year in which they're a playoff team or can make a run, I think the best thing for them is to miss the playoffs and have a mental and physical reset. You have to start to evaluate which players are going to play key roles in 2025. And then in doing so, you figure out which needs you need to address next year as far as this roster, and see if Tanner Mordecai can do anything. I'm with you. I know last week I disagree with you. I had said start Joshua Dobbs, not Brandon Allen. You said start Tanner Mordecai. He's athletic. He has a pretty good arm. He can run around. I think being able to run around and create out of structure against Buffalo is really important. The other thing too, you're saying run the ball. I agree. This is why it drives me insane that Kyle Shanahan is not running with Jordan Mason. The outside zone is not working. The offensive line is not good. They're not blocking things up as well. It doesn't matter with Jordan Mason. He will run through your face and over you, and he will pick up yards after contact, and that's an efficient play. And the Niners running the ball haven't had efficient plays. And now you're going up against a Bills defense that struggles against the run. Give Jordan Mason the rock more. Christian McCaffrey said 2 weeks ago, I feel like I'm close. He looked terrible against Green Bay. John Lynch said today, Christian McCaffrey's close to breaking out. He doesn't have the same burst. He doesn't have the same explosion.
Well, and Shanahan said it to us Friday, Chase. He's like, people that are critical of Christian shouldn't be because, he's been out and that was a serious injury. All the more reason to play the other guys a little bit.
You're the one running him into the ground again.
Right. You're running him into the ground and you're blaming us for noticing.
Yes. When Jordan Mason is averaging 5.1 yards per carry and has run for more than 700 yards, and in the last 3 games, he has under 10 carries combined. How does it happen?
In 3 games since CMC's been back, Garendo's got 1 carry and Mason has 6. Yeah. I mean, you had a running game with 2 young backs that were the envy of the league, and and you get McCaffrey back. You basically cut those guys. It was like they're not on the team anymore. And it's all because, and then you're going to tell us, well, McCaffrey's ramping up. Well, guess what? Use the other freaking guys.
Yes.
I'm sometimes I lose my S on these guys. 2 last thoughts. Kev tweeted out, Fred Warner playing with a broken ankle explains why his production has been much worse this season. If you look at the numbers before and after the injury, it's very apparent. Weeks 1 through 4, he missed 2 tackles and he had a PF grade of 89.1. Weeks 5 through 12 after the injury, he's missed 9 tackles and his PFF grade has fallen from 89.1 to 62.1. I said it to him a week ago. I said, hey, man, you look like you're diminished. You look like you're, how do you get rejuvenated? He's like, I haven't lost a step. This is it right here. He's been playing with a broken ankle. He has lost a step. He's not the same guy. And it's, now we have like statistical proof and confirmation of injury. He's diminished because he's playing with a broken ankle. He's not as fast.
Yeah, and a couple of weeks ago, I was trying to figure out, okay, what has happened to Fred Warner? And I listed a couple of different reasons. Niners defensive line isn't as good. The complementary linebacker play has been bad. Fred Warner has really missed Dre Greenlaw. The scheme and the play calling isn't good. I also mentioned, remember when he suffered that ankle injury against New England? That kind of coincides with the downhill numbers that we have seen. Fred Warner is a consummate pro. Fred Warner is what epitomizes being a Niner is like. Fred Warner is an all-time legend, a future Hall of Famer, a great player who unfortunately was playing at a Defensive Player of the Year level before he suffered that ankle injury. What's made him great too? Instincts, athleticism, flying around, play style, leadership, durability too. One of the reasons why LeBron is so great, been durable. He started playing in 2003. I was 11 years old. I'm now 32 and LeBron's still dropping triple doubles. So I think durability goes a long way in determining a player's greatness. Fred Warner has missed 1 game in his entire career. My man is out there for a team that's been struggling mightily with a broken bone in his ankle. And I admire his toughness. He's kind of hurting the team right now. So the Niners have to decide, okay, do we want to balance having him out there? Our defense might be worse if he's not. Or do we try to save him from himself and sit him? If the Niners lose this game, if they start to get out of the playoff hunt, sit Fred Warner, because that's one player who I don't think that you can go without on the defensive side of the ball. But it's peak Fred Warner to be playing through an injury like this. It doesn't surprise me at all. In fact, it's amazing, but again, not surprising.
Fred is a beast, as 49er Brian said. All right, let's go 3 starred chats. John Kahlua says, I can't believe there isn't a center somewhere on the practice squad or the street that can play better than Jake Brendel. Why aren't they doing something? Dude, they got a guy right next to him in Drake Nugent who I think could be better right away. Right away. I think Jake Nugent is better than Jake Brendel. He's a little bit lighter, but he's got great strength, great leverage. I think he's a better player, and I want to see him. Charles says, Larry Chase, do you believe this season has finally convinced Shanahan we must upgrade the O-line? I've been frustrated since the NFC Championship game against the Rams. Please give me some hope. I don't know. He seems like, I haven't seen Kyle Shanahan change hardly anything. He every philosophy he has, he's like rock solid on, it seems like.
Yeah, is this the year that forces him to change it when he realizes we can't run block? The patented outside zone, it's not working. Pass protection, look what happens when we don't have Brock Purdy who can create with his feet out of structure improvisationally. Is that what forces Kyle Shanahan to change? He's very stubborn. Sometimes it takes a change of scenery to change. It happened with Andy Reid, whose career in Philadelphia, very identical to Kyle Shanahan's with the 49ers. If this year doesn't make him change that philosophy, I'm not sure it ever will, unfortunately.
What's your thought on the quarterback position going forward? Do you pay Brock Purdy $50 million, $55 million, $60 million? There's people that are deathly afraid of that. There's other people that are like, you know what? He's not the guy. We need to go look for a quarterback. Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward are probably the top quarterbacks in the draft. There's other people, some people like Carson Beck. Some people like Drew, is it Aller from Penn
Drew
State?
Aller from Penn State. I think he goes back another year.
Garrett Nussmeier from LSU. We have a chat here at the bottom, not a super, but this is interesting from Macchiano. He says Notre Dame quarterback Riley Leonard is a bigger Purdy, more mobile like Steve Young, and he's got that dog in him. I agree. I did a deep dive on Riley Leonard. That's the quarterback that I would try to find in this draft. I think he's probably going to be a day 3 guy, but he's 6'4", 215 pounds. He can run. He's athletic. He's a good kid. I like Riley Leonard. If I could come back next year with Purdy, Riley Leonard, and Tanner Mordecai, I'd be happy with that. What do you see ahead for the Niners at the quarterback position? And is there a college quarterback that you kind of like?
Yeah, as far as drafting a quarterback, I wouldn't be opposed to drafting a quarterback day 3. I think it's always smart to invest in the quarterback position and see how you can develop that player. And I think that player could be a better backup than Brandon Allen. That's for sure. As far as this quarterback class, it's a weak quarterback class. The teams that are in desperate need for a quarterback, it's a bad year for them because I think Shedeur Sanders is QB1, Cam Ward QB2, and QB3, it's either Garrett Nussmeier or Jalen Milroe. And so it is not a good quarterback class. And where would Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward be in last year's class? I think that is a viable question.
So it's funny that you asked that because I was just reading a thing last night from a guy that I respect immensely, Dane Brugler, for the Athletic.
Great draft analyst.
Yeah, and he said that if this year's quarterbacks were in last year's draft, that they all would have been slated behind J.J. McCarthy.
I kind of agree. Yeah. I mean, behind Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, J.J. McCarthy. I might take Shedeur 4th ahead of J.J. McCarthy, but that's my point, is that this quarterback class is weak compared to a strong quarterback class. Where I stand with Purdy, I think he's in the Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff type of territory, right there with Jalen Hurts as well. I'll put Baker Mayfield in that class, which brings me to this point. My dream scenario for a Purdy contract extension would be the Baker Mayfield deal. Baker Mayfield signed for 3 years, $100 million. And since the midway point of last year, I think he's played like a top 10 quarterback. And so that comes out to an average annual value of $33.3 million. I would offer that to Brock Purdy right now. I'd say, hey, 3 years for 100, take it or leave it. If not, we'll revisit this in a couple of months. If he declines that, I'm a little hesitant to pay him $50 to $60 million. I first want to figure out what the shoulder injury is. Now, I think that Purdy has played like a top 10 quarterback since he took over in 2022. And Jared Goff and some of the Jalen Hurts, they got contracts worth more than $50 million. But I worry about the injury history to his arm. I worry about the lack of size. I worry about how he's kind of struggled this year with not the same supporting cast and not the same coaching. On that same token, 3 years for $100 million, 33 per year on the Baker Mayfield deal. I think that would be great. Baker got 40 guaranteed at signing. I also don't think it's crazy to ask Purdy to play on the final year of his deal, because if he wants 50 to 60, the Niners have to be absolutely sure that he is worth 50 to 60. And I'm not sure they know if he's worth that price tag yet.